welcome to our first start of January's Meat-Free Mondays. So we're doing Meat-Free Mondays to coincide with the NHS's Green Plan that is currently coming out, and also the reason we do Meat-Free Mondays is because January is Veganuary, and also eating less meat is good for your health, it is good for the environment, and it's also good for your pocket. So we're going to do, every Monday we're going to have a different recipe. So the first one we're going to do this week is your Lentil Bolognese. So we've got a few ingredients in front of it, very basic. We've got your tinned tomatoes, got an white onion, got marmite, tomato puree, black pepper, your mixed herbs, some mushrooms, one pepper, carrot, garlic, which will probably use about 1 clove or 2 cloves of that. Also your vegetable stock, your red lentils, the main ingredient, and also your whole wheat spaghetti, which is obviously better than your white spaghetti. That's the fibre. And on that note, I am going to pass you to my colleague Wendy, who will cook the vegetables.
Hello! So I'm a practitioner with Wellbeing service, so today, as part of this quite simple recipe, so we're going to start off cooking an onion. And everybody goes, I know how to cut an onion, but do you know how to cut an onion without tears? Because everybody goes, oh, they make me cry, I can't chop onions. If you chop it in half, but you try to keep that root on that's on the end there, that's where the pyric acid that makes your eyes water comes from. So we use 2 ways of doing it. If you chop it in half like this, work your root to that side, and we're going to make some cuts down the onion, but we're not going to cut it all the way down. We're going to make like a fan. So we cut it like that, and then we're going to cut it crossways. Again, keeping it all together, and then we're going to make what we call the bridge. We're going to hold it like that, and we're going to chop down, and we've got nice pieces of onion, and you can make it as fine as you want. Chop it like that, and we'll just put the root to one side, and no tears if you do it like that. So you haven't got to go sticking goggles on, or running your hands under cold water, holding a spoon in your mouth, all these weird things that people do. You can just do it like that, and you get nice small pieces of onion. And chop that up, because every good recipe starts with an onion. So we're going to do that. We'll pop it in a bowl for now. Pop it in there. So what we'll put in there, and then we'll also do chopping up our other vegetables. So we've got a pepper. I'm going to chop our pepper up. People have different ways. So this recipe, you don't have to use peppers and mushrooms. It can be whatever. You could have some celery. So if you take that out like that, you just lift that out, pull your white bits out, tap it, get rid of the seeds, and then you can use every bit of your pepper like that. Doesn't have to be a red one. Be green, yellow, any colour you feel like. Again, chop it down into strips like that. And then, depending upon how many you like to chop at the same time, you can just chop them across like that, making sure you keep your fingers out of the way, don't chop your fingers. And then you just end up with nice sized pieces. You chop it there. There's nothing nicer than a nice smelling pepper there. It smells lovely. I'm going to be clever and do it like that. One thing you won't be able to see when I chop my finger off, because it'll look like this pepper anyway. And we'll not do that. But it's very good if you can put the vegetables in this dish. It'll fill it out, so it'll go further, as well as getting your vegetables in there as well. So we'll chop those in there. It's going to look nice and colourful. Remember, we eat with our eyes, so you want things to look nice and colourful while you're doing it. And I'm going to try and chop up this onion. It's not very good knife, but this carrot, should I say. So we just want that into nice small pieces. And that way, if you chop them that way, then you can again just chop into small pieces like that. We'll keep all our fingers and just have everything nice and small. Like I say, we could use celery in this. That's if you use celery in the house. You could use tinned vegetables as well. If you wanted to just fill it out a little bit. It's very tough, this, not a very sharp knife. It's most important to have a sharp knife. There we go. So that's our vegetables prepared. When we've got all those prepared, we'll be heading over to the cooker and starting that off. Oh, and I forgot to do the garlic. Silly me. Here we go. The garlic, as Tammy said, we've got a whole head of garlic here. Some people use garlic paste. This is much more economical. This is about 30 pence. So this is much more economical. It'll keep in the fridge and it'll keep for quite a long time. So if you get it. So this is called a head and these are called cloves. Never get them mixed up in a recipe because sometimes people think that's a clove and it ends up very garlicky. So if you take them out, take that bit of that outer skin off and it'll just separate out there. You can separate a clove out. And how much you add is entirely up to you. It's whether you like garlic or don't like garlic. So what we need to do, if you just chop out that little root, take off the peel. Yeah. You can get garlic squeezes and things, but actually you don't really need them. If you get your knife, put the knife on top, and you tap it like that, and then just chop in like that, and you get nice fine garlic. And you can add as much or as little as you like. Again, we'll do it with that. Flat your hand, just chop it down like that. There we go. All chopped up nice and fine. Don't want any big pieces in there. As I say, depends how many friends you've got, how much garlic you want to put in it. If you've got anybody to kiss that night. There you go. That's all our vegetables prepared. Hi, now I'm going to show you how to put the recipe together. I've put the onions in with a little bit of oil and soften them down. They're starting to just brown a little bit. And now basically we're going to add the other ingredients. So we're going to put into that, we're going to put our mushrooms, we've nicely chopped up. We'll drop in our peppers. See, looking lovely and colourful there. And our chopped up carrots. We'll add our garlic now. I didn't put it in with the onions because I put it in too soon. Garlic has a habit of burning and you'll get a very bitter taste from it. So never put it in at the same time as your onions because it'll just cook too quickly. You don't want that bitter taste. So if you just pop it in at this stage and just check how. So we're just going to cook those up a little bit. We'll just mix them in, get them all mixed up. And basically with this, once you've cooked your onions, you can add everything else to it. So we're going to add to this, for this quantity, and you'll see when you get the recipe, we've got 300 grams of red lentils, split lentils some people call them. You can use poi lentils, which take a bit more cooking if you get them dried, or the green ones, or you could use tinned lentils if you wanted to cut down on cooking time. You could have this cooked and add tinned lentils, and we'd probably be adding 2 tins of lentils to it. But actually the red lentils are very economical. I think these were less than 60 pence for a bag, and we're going to get a couple of meals out of them. So if we just tip those in, people think that you need to pre-serve them. You don't. They cook very quickly. Lentils there. Lentils are great for bulking things out. If you're cooking any sort of dish and you pop them in. They're also an excellent source of protein that our body's really happy with. So really good to have lentils. They're also very good standby, great thing to keep in your cupboard, especially with bad weather or just lockdowns, hopefully not. But if you've got things like lentils, you can always have a good protein-rich meal. Next we're going to add to this, we're going to use some yeast extract. There's one with a famous name that some people like or don't like, the marmite. But basically, this is vegetarian. But what it does is add a very good meaty taste. And because we're cooking quite a bit, I'm going to add about 2 teaspoons of this there. Even if you're not a person that likes marmite, it's still a really good thing to add. It's not terrifically marmitey taste in there. But also yeast extract is also very good for B vitamins and D vitamins, so quite a really good thing to add to it as well. So we're just going to stir that through. And as I say, it gives a slightly beefy sort of taste. I'm going to add some tomato puree. You see when you get your recipe basically how much we're using. So we can add that. Again, typical, normally if you're making a bolognese you would add the tomato puree. Obviously the only difference at the moment with this is we haven't put any meat in, so our lentils are acting as that. What you always want to do if you're using things like lentils in any sort of dish is to get plenty of flavour in there. So make sure you're getting things to taste. We're going to put some pepper in there. I'm going to use some mixed herbs. You could use Italian herbs, some basil. Today we're going to use some mixed herbs and sprinkle those in. Stir through. And the thing is, you can adjust it at the end. Haven't put any salt in there. We find that the marmite and the yeast extract is quite salty, and obviously trying to reduce the amount of salt that we have in our diet for health reasons. So you probably find that there's enough from using the yeast extract. Either way, the yeast extract is available in all the supermarkets. This is Tesco's own, and it's a lot cheaper than buying the branded one, and I know lots of other supermarkets do it. The other thing we're going to add to this is a stock cube. You can just put stock in. I always find it's easier to put the stock cube in, mush it up a little bit, pop it in, rather than mixing it with the water, because it depends how much water you want to add to it. And that will dissolve in when we get the rest of the ingredients in. We've used chopped tomatoes in there, straight in. There. And there. And then I will judge that then on whether we needed to add any more liquid. Obviously lentils do soak up more liquid than what if we had meat in there, so you might need to add some extra water into there. I'll just pop over here. We're just going to get a little bit of boiling water, pop that in. So I'm going to set that away. I'll keep an eye on it, see whether I need to add some more liquid to it. As I say, because the lentils do soak it up, so keep an eye out for that. And we'll pop a lid on and we'll leave it cooking. It will be cooked in 20 to 30 minutes. The longer you cook, a bit like bolognese, the longer you cook it, the more flavour you'll get from it. But that will be ready in 20 to 30 minutes.
So now we've got the bolognese simmering nicely in my pan. What we need to do next is obviously the pasta. So to save a little bit of energy for your gas, best off getting that kettle, putting a bit of water in, boiling it, so it's nice and hot as you go into the pan. Pour your water into your pan, so it's nicely boiling, got a rolling boil going. You need your pasta, which we've got spaghetti, but it doesn't have to be spaghetti. It can be fusilli, penne, any kind of pasta that you like, but always check the back of the package to see how long you would need to do this for. Now the spaghetti takes anywhere between 10 to 12 minutes, so obviously once you've got your rolling boil, grab just a nice handful of your pasta, obviously depending on how many you are feeding, and all you will simply do is just drop that into the pan. Now give it a bit of a stir. Normally you would use a spoon for this. I think I've got my fingers, but there we go. Give it a bit of a stir into the pan. Once all that's in there, leave it in for about, let's say, 10 to 12 minutes, checking regular, and then once that's done, drain it in your colander or just drain it from the sink into the from your pan, and then you're good to go. So, it's our finished dish. Nice, lovely lentil bolognese. So we're just going to, obviously we've got the cooked spaghetti there on the plate. So again, also we'll just portion this out. Obviously, depending on how much you would like, just pop that on there. There we go. As well, obviously I know a lot of people like to have some Parmesan cheese on there with your lentils. Sorry, with the bolognese, I'll start again. But obviously with being plant-based, try and obviously eat any dairy-free cheese, or there is something that you call Nutritional yeast, which you can just sprinkle on. It's kind of like a piece of Parmesan, so there's that option there as well. But yeah, that's it as for that. And I'll pass to Wendy because we can do some other kind of dishes with that.
So it's just to give you some ideas with this same mixture, different ideas of being able to do with it. So pop some in a dish. This will be an earthenware dish, and we're going to make a lentil vegetarian shepherd cottage Cumberland pie, whichever you want to call it. So I've got some potatoes that I've boiled and mashed, and we're going to pop those in. So we just popped it in the base. So it will set a little bit. It'll be a bit thicker because you don't want it too runny when you're making this. A little tip: if you're putting potatoes in a dish, a mashed potato, do the corners first, because sometimes when you put it in the middle it all pushes up on the outside. If you fill in the corners first, then work your way around the edges, then actually you won't get it bubbling up and filling it all up. So just, you do it like that, pop it all in. Now as I say, you'll be doing this in an earthenware dish because obviously you're going to pop this under the grill and brown it up. I'm just doing this with Congolese just now. There we go. Some nice mashed potatoes. just with a little bit of seasoning in, and a little bit of spread in there, maybe a little bit of oaty milk if you wanted to use it in there, or soy milk if you didn't want to use dairy milk. So we're just going to fork that over, and as Telly said with the bolognese, if you wanted to use some other type of cheese on there as an alternative to using dairy cheese, there is lots of brands out there now, so you could just pop some of that on, or you can grate a little bit of carrot on the top. It gives a nice colour to when you actually pop it under the grill. So when you fork down along that way, fluffs up lovely, and you can just sprinkle whatever you want on the top there and pop it under the grill. And the third thing we can do with this, well, actually there's 4 things. We could use this to make a lasagna, so it's what would be the meat base in your lasagna, just exactly the same as that. Do use your lasagna, layer it up, and then make a vegetarian cheese sauce for the top, vegan cheese sauce if you want to do it that way, and cook it just the same as normal. For the rest of this, I'm going to actually make some chilli. So again, it's a very versatile dish. We could have cooked it and made chilli. So to this mixture, you could have added it a little bit earlier. I'm going to add a tin of kidney beans. You could add any other type of bean. If you're not fond of kidney beans or black beans, you could add baked beans. Children often like that because it's a little bit sweeter, and they're still beans, but they're an acceptable face of beans. And all we're going to use is a little bit of chilli, depending upon how hot you like it. You add it, or you don't add it at all if you don't like anything spicy. And I'm going to pop that back on, and I'll cook that for another 10 minutes, just to let that chilli infuse into it. And I'll serve that with some rice, preferably brown rice. So actually you can see from that half a packet of lentils we've managed to cook quite a few different dishes. And again, it's very versatile. It's something you can keep in the cupboard, as all these things are, tin tomatoes and all this sort of thing you might have in your store cupboard, and make a good meat-free Monday when nobody feels like messing about too much with cooking. It's all in one pan and easy to do.